Nolan Price, the night janitor at the gray office building on Cedar Ninth, clocked in at 10 p.m. on the dot. Tonight he promised himself he would ask Fran, the building manager, for extra hours so he could pay his mother's clinic bill before Friday. A single light glowed in Suite 902. Even though 900 and 910 had been taped off for renovation, no entry all week. He slowed at the glass, felt a thin draft crawling under the door, and touched the corner of the tape notice with his knuckle. The paper was new, edges too clean for a sign that had been there all week. He slid his key ring along his belt so it wouldn't rattle, told himself to start with the restrooms like always, and kept walking with the quiet resolve of a night janitor carrying one small secret, the courage he hoped to find before the shift ended. The building knew him by sound. The wheels of his caddy squeaking on the polished floor, the soft chunk as he pressed the elevator button, the hum of the vending machine in the lobby that never blinked. Nolan moved steady, shoulders relaxed, eyes on the corners. He always picked up the small things that others missed. A paper clip under a copier, a dropped badge propped on a chair, a window latch hung just crooked enough to whistle in a draft. Kindness made him slow, and slow made him careful. That was his dignity. He liked leaving a place better than he found it, even if nobody saw. Some nights test what daylight only pretends to know. He set his caddy in the dim break room on 8 and shoved quarters into the vending machine for a bottle of water. The machine hummed, coughed, then gave him a soda instead. He didn't drink soda. He set it on the counter for someone else and took a sip of water from the sink, cold climbing down his throat. In his back pocket, the folded clinic invoice felt like a stiff hand pressing him forward. He had promised his mother he would take care of it. Fran could be sharp, but she respected work that showed up. The trick was catching her in a good minute. Back in the hallway, a distant siren stuttered down on Cedar, thin and far. The streetlight outside buzzed against the glass. He leaned into the broom, the fine grit whispering under his shoes, and the silence of the building settled on him like a careful hand. He passed a framed map by the stairwell and checked it the way he always did. Nothing had changed there. Only that light on 9, pooled pale and steady behind security film. He told himself to ignore it. He told himself rules were a kind of shelter when you had no backup. By midnight, the trash rooms were done, and the restrooms were clean, lemon cleaner breathing out tile. Nolan took the service stairs, hand sliding along the cold rail, and pushed through the door onto 9. Suite 902 still glowed. The little brass mail slot on the door clicked softly in the draft. He swallowed. He took a step closer, then another. Through the blurred glass, he saw movement and stopped. If you've ever walked a building at night and sensed someone on the other side of a door, you know how your breath decides to get loud exactly when you want silence. Nolan stood with keys hanging heavy against his thigh. He could have wheeled his caddy away and called it a night. Instead, he leaned and rapped once on the glass, knuckles barely touching. In that second of pause, the hum of the vending machine down the hall sounded like a warning. The latch clicked from inside. The door opened a sliver. The chain still on, a long hand with a tan work glove nudging the edge. "Water line in here," a voice said, low and even. "It's fine." "I saw the light," Nolan said. He kept his voice calm and level. He had a mild stutter when he was rushed, and he hated offering it to strangers. "Good eye," the voice said. The chain slipped. The door opened. A man in a blue work shirt, no name patch, no badge, stood with a mop in one hand and a small wrench in the other. He had gray at the temples and a lined face that could soften or harden with a blink. "Temp crew got called in," the man said. "Pipe near the window. We're testing a fix. You can call me Silas." "Nolan," he said. The room smelled like wet plaster and metal. Plastic drop cloths draped over desks and boxes. In the corner, a bucket reflected the ceiling in a nervous shimmer. Water ticked along a line and dripped into the bucket, steady as a metronome. Silas held the wrench up. "The coupler sings when it's ready to quit," he said. "Listen." He tapped, and the pipe answered with a faint metallic ring. "You need a hand?" Nolan asked. Silas nodded. "Hold the bucket steady. I'll swap the part." They worked in near silence. The water line hissed when Silas loosened it, then calmed. Nolan kept his grip on the bucket, arms warming with effort. Up close, he noticed Silas's shoes were old but clean, Saul's quiet on the tile. He moved like someone who knew where every edge was. A small ring of keys hung at his belt, but it wasn't the cheap office-issue kind. It was polished, old, and he kept his thumb on it the way a person touches a habit. The hum of the building rose and fell as if the walls were breathing. When Silas tightened the new coupler, he nodded toward a sealed envelope on a desk. "Do me a favor? Drop that by Fran's office on 6 when you can," he said. "She usually locks up around 1. Nolan looked at the envelope. White, clean, his name nowhere, a neat line of block letters. For Fran, tonight. His stomach knotted. He thought of bringing an envelope to her and getting asked why he was on 9 near a restricted suite. He thought of the clinic bill. But he also saw the weight behind Silas's eyes, the easy authority that didn't need to be named. He wiped his hand on his pants and picked it up. "Sure," he said. Silas checked the joint again, then shut the valve. He handed Nolan the wrench to hold while he ran a finger along the seam, feeling for damp. "You look like you take care," Silas said. "You keep the corners from sliding away." Nolan didn't trust himself to answer. He wanted to ask why a temporary night crewman knew Fran by name, or why his keys looked like museum pieces. He just nodded, and Silas gave a half-smile like a secret keeping itself quiet. If you've had nights like this, the narrator asks you, the small jobs that end up being bigger moments, drop a line and tell me what it felt like. On 6, Fran's door stood half open, her desk lamp a yellow island in the dim. The hallway felt warm here, the air still. He knocked on the frame. Fran looked up, hair pinned back, glasses low. "You're still here," she said. "Sweet, not to," Nolan said, holding out the envelope. "Temp crew asked me to pass this along." Fran frowned, took the envelope, turned it over. "From who?" "A guy named Silas," Nolan said. Fran paused just long enough for Nolan to catch it. A muscle in her cheek moved. Then she slit the envelope with a paper clip and slid a single page out. Her face changed slowly like clouds moving. She didn't invite him in. She put the page back, placed the envelope in the top drawer, and shut it with a soft click. "Thanks," she said, voice tight. "You're done on 9? "Yes." "Good," she said. She looked at him then, really looked, and something like worry ran through her eyes. "Before you go, Nolan, we need to talk about your hours," she said. His chest tightened. "All right." She breathed in. "Corporate wants to shrink night staffing for 2 weeks to run an audit," she said. "I fought to keep you on. You're on a short list. If they approve, it's extra hours on the weekend for you. If not, your normal schedule. I'll know by morning." He nodded. "I appreciate you telling me," he said. He did, but dread showed up anyway. An audit meant change. Change often cut the quiet people first. On his way back to 8, Nolan stopped at the stairwell landing and listened. The building had different sounds on different floors. On 9, the air trembled a little under the vents. On 8, the carpet swallowed footsteps. On 7, a draft in the fire door always found his ankles. He leaned into the railing and let the metal cool his skin. He considered going home, calling his mother, pretending he had a plan. He decided instead to finish the job. Decisions like that make a life, even when no one is watching. Just after 1, he passed Suite 902 again. The light was off now. The tape notice hung slack on one corner. He pressed the edge back to glass and smoothed it with his palm. The latch clicked from inside. He stepped back. The door didn't open. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. One line, "Check the loading dock." He frowned. He didn't give his number out at work. But he had, weeks ago, written it on the form at the security desk for emergency contact. He hesitated. Then he pressed the elevator button. It chimed softly, doors sliding open with a hush. He rode down, breath matching the slow fall. The loading dock smelled like dust and old rain. A utility lamp threw a cone of light on the concrete. The roll-up door was half shut. Nolan stepped into the light and squinted. Silas sat on an overturned crate, a thermos in his hand. Steam ghosting up. "Didn't want to haunt the lobby," Silas said. Mind if we talk? Nolan's guard rose, then dipped. He recognized the weight of the moment in the way Silas didn't look at him at first. I can spare a minute, Nolan said. Silas set the thermos down, the metal making a hollow ring. I've been around this building a long time, he said. The quiet things you do, people like me notice. The soda you leave on the counter when the machine gives you the wrong drink. The badge you return. The door you close that someone else left ajar. You're the kind of person I came here to find. Nolan smoothed his palms on his pants. What is this? He asked. An audit, Silas said. Of a kind. Nolan waited. 802 had a leak last month. You locked it, left a note, and reported it. You didn't stick around to be thanked. Silas said. Last week you found $20 by the elevator and gave it to security. Tonight you held a bucket steady and didn't complain. You didn't ask me who I was when your eyes already told you something was off. My eyes. Silas smiled. You saw my keys, he said, and you wondered why my wrench felt like it had more miles than a weekend temp should. Nolan exhaled. Who are you? He asked. Silas took the thermos cap off, poured a little into it, and offered the cap to Nolan. It smelled like strong tea. I'm the man who owns this building, Silas said quietly, and 5 more like it. My last name doesn't matter to anyone who cleans a floor at 2 a.m., and that's exactly why I come in at night. People are different when they think a person in a blue shirt is just part of the wallpaper. Nolan stood very still. The utility lamp hummed. He felt his heartbeat down in his wrists. Friend knows, Silas said. That envelope I asked you to deliver was for her. It said I'm doing round this month, and that I've taken an interest in one of her people. She'll get in trouble with me if she talks before I do. Being boss buys you 2 privileges, seeing things and choosing what to do about them. Nolan found his voice. What do you want to do about me? He asked. Silas leaned back on the crate. There's a day position opening upstairs, he said. Operations assistant. You'd learn building systems safety, tenant support, better pay, regular hours. It's work for someone who notices small things and doesn't need a spotlight to do the right thing. Tonight was my test to see if I was guessing right. You passed before you knew you were being asked to. Nolan's first thought was of his mother's hands and the way they shook when she was tired. His second was of the janitor's closet where he kept his worn gloves and the small notebook where he wrote down repairs no one asked for. His third was a fear edged like glass. I don't have certifications, he said. I'll pay for them, Silas said. You'll study during work hours for part of the week. If you want it. Nolan drew in a breath, held it until his chest felt tight, and let it go. I do want it, he said. Silas nodded as if he had expected that. There's one more piece, he said. He slid a folded sheet of paper across the crate. Nolan picked it up. It was the same clinic invoice folded in his back pocket, but this one had a sticky note on top. Paid. The handwriting was the same as on the envelope. Blocky, neat. I didn't steal your mail, Silas said, answering the question before Nolan asked it. Your mother's name came up in a call earlier today, and I recognize the clinic's number because we helped them with a maintenance contract. They were going to send the invoice here because you used the building address once. Don't do that again. It creates a mess. But it gave me a chance to have the bill handled quietly. You can pay me back out of the raise if you need to. Or not. I'm not here to embarrass you. Nolan stared at the word paid until it blurred. He blinked hard. The concrete felt very solid under his shoes. He looked up. Why me? He asked. Silas thought for a second. Because you put the soda on the counter, he said simply. And you pressed the edge of a loose sign back onto a door that wasn't yours, just because it would stop flapping all night. You don't know who hears those gestures, but buildings talk to people who listen. Behind them, footsteps sounded on the ramp. Friend appeared, coat on, keys in her hand, eyes wide. She stopped short. Mr. R., she started. Silas lifted a hand. Tonight, I'm Silas, he said. Friend nodded, then looked at Nolan, and her face softened into something he had never seen from her, a kind of apology. I didn't know how to tell you about the audit, she said to Nolan. I was told to keep it quiet. I get it, Nolan said. Fran set her keys on the crate. Do you want the assistant role? she asked. Because if you do, we have to fill papers before sunrise. The company moves slow in the day and fast at night. Nolan laughed once, too loud, then covered his mouth. Yes, he said. I want it. They did the paperwork on the crate. Pens scratching, pages turning. The utility lamp buzzed. Somewhere above them, a toilet flushed, a late tenant packing up. Silas watched them with calm satisfaction, like a man who had spent years finding the right people one quiet night at a time. When the papers were done, Silas stood. One condition, he said. About me, about what I do at night. Keep it yours. People behave different around titles. I need to see them when they're not performing. Nolan nodded. He understood. The night had its own codes. Thank you for staying with the story. The narrator says gentle now. If you felt something in this moment, he'll like and share your city or town. Those little notes help keep these nights lit. The three of them stood in the loading dock a minute more, listening to the building breathe. Then Fran took her keys, shook Nolan's hand, and left to skin final floors. Silas picked up his thermos, screwed the cap tight, and slid it into a pocket in the caddy Nolan didn't even notice existed. Tomorrow you come in at 8, he said. Where's something you can crawl under a desk in? When Nolan walked back to the hall, the lights seemed warmer, as if the building had decided to include him in its pulse. He cleaned the rest of 8 with hands that knew where they were going for once. He pressed the elevator button again, felt the soft give, heard the almost silent glide. On 9, he straightened the tape notice one more time, smoothing the corner that kept wanting to peel. It was a small thing, but it felt like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. At 4 a.m., he stepped out into the cold air, breath clouding, the streetlight still buzzing like a low, old song. His phone buzzed one more time. A text from Fran, bring ID at 8, and one from an unknown number which he knew now. See you then. He put the phone away and looked up at the bare windows blinking in the night. Some secrets are heavy. This one felt like a key. He walked home lighter. By the next afternoon, he was back in the same building, eyes sharp, listening to the systems, learning how the place truly worked. He caught himself checking corners, hands finding the places where threads pull loose. As he passed Suite 902, lights off, notice still straight. He smiled once and kept walking. Here's the quiet twist to carry with you. The most powerful people sometimes hide in plain work, and the most life-changing chances often arrive dressed like extra mopping. So treat every small task like a gate to something larger, because character is the only promotion that nobody can take away.